Zenless has announced Ye Shunguang's rerun, and of course many players are going to talk about it and what that means. Normally I don't bother with rerun videos because I just don't find the conversation too interesting on a personal level. Most of the talking points are the same ones that I've been hearing for about 2 years now, so I just don't bother with them unless someone is willing to dive deeper and make a meaningful discussion. And that's what I hope to do here today. Howdy, my name's Yojimbo Blade, and today I want to help players, new and returning, free to play, budget players, all you guys. I want to help you out by discussing Ye Shunguang, why she's really good, and why she is likely to underperform in Season 3. Before I get too far, this is more of an end-game focused discussion, so I want to say this first. If you are just now joining the game, you should not care about the end game. You're not ready for it. If I handed you the best account in the world, with the strongest agents, strongest builds, strongest teams, you wouldn't know what to do with it because you're just not ready for it. Instead, you should focus on figuring out if you enjoy playing the game. This is not a criticism or a negative thing, but if you are a new player, you lack a fundamental understanding of how to play the game and why you should care about playing the game. As you play, you will learn those things. You will see stories and agents that interest you and you will want to get invested in. But that's a process you're going to have to go through at your own pace. And now, a quick word from our sponsors. Tired of losing out on 50-50s? Wish you had more pulls? Have I got the solution for you? Use a VPN, save your money. Thank you again to my sponsors. Now back to the video. I can't keep doing that ad read, that's so dumb. Get a ratchet belt, ratchet belts are great. Now let's talk about Ye Shunguang. First, she is the best attack agent in the game. She is a void hunter, she's overpowered. I want to make that very clear. Regarding gameplay as a whole, players will want to unload all their damage at the best time to get the fastest times and highest scores. Most agents have windows of time they want to deal their damage. For attackers, you usually stun an enemy and then deal most of your damage that way. Ye Shunguang doesn't ever have to play around that. Her enlightened state means she can effectively do whatever she wants, whenever she wants. Her kit specifically ignores the stun damage. Her core says that when she is enlightened, and she, quote, deals damage to enemies with her skills, enemy stun damage multiplier is ignored and replaced with Veil vulnerability bonus. Veil vulnerability capped at 110%, end quote. On top of that, many enemies in Season 2 have a miasma phase. While most of the Deadly Assault bosses have very telegraphed and kind of short miasma phases, Shiyu defense enemies have them more frequently and they can last longer. When Ye Shunguang transforms, her physical damage becomes honed edge damage, and this reduces miasma shields 50% faster. So even though miasma does make enemies tougher to deal damage to, Ye Shunguang doesn't really care because she depletes it faster. Add to that the range of her attacks, how frequently she can do her best attacks, how invincible she is doing her best attacks for most of the fight, and you create an agent who is incredibly dominant in Shiyu defense. I firmly believe she is the best agent in that mode. They changed it back in, I think, 2.5. I'm going to look that up again. Yeah, it was in 2.5. I was right. I just had to double check that. They changed the mode back in 2.5 when they released her to go from a time-based mode to a score-based time mode. Early damage gives a higher score than later damage. For agents that want to wait for certain windows, this is really awkward to adjust to. For Ye Shunguang, it's a regular Tuesday. It's not a coincidence that they changed how the mode works the same patch they release her. And beyond Shiyu defense, Ye Shunguang just has a lot of decent fights for her in Deadly Assault. A lot of Season 2 bosses are just weak to physical, so she does perfectly fine against them. Primordial Nightmare was designed with a miasma phase that is kind of annoying for most agents, and Ye Shunguang is much less affected by it. And finally, being the Void Hunter, she also got preferential stage buffs. On one hand, I understand that those buffs on agent releases are designed to make agents feel better because players are just learning how to use them and build those characters, so you're giving a little bit of boost to those players. Totally understand that. On the other hand, some of those buffs are very powerful and very niche, so it's not very fair to the rest of the cast. In summary, Ye Shunguang is incredibly powerful. For fighting game fans, Ye Shunguang completely skips neutral, outranges everything, outmaneuvers everything, has insane hitboxes, all attacks are safe on block, and turn into 20-second air combos when she can repeatedly juggle enemies. That might be a little exaggerated, but you get what I mean. Funny enough, I think this is oddly similar to how powerful Dark Phoenix is in Ultra Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Sure, we were gonna be able to block in time, but instead we're cooked.
Literally almost had it with the sweep there for B-Man, not ready for it.
Don't shoot anymore, don't shoot, don't shoot.
You can't shoot.
Do not, no.
Oh. She got 5.
Oh, the last arrow put her at 5. Oh, no, and gets the teleport for the punish there.
Now, despite everything I've just said, let's talk about her Achilles heel, her weakness, something she cannot overcome. I called her similar to Dark Phoenix for a very good reason. Dark Phoenix is the best character in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Unfortunately, Dark Phoenix is tied to Regular Phoenix. Regular Phoenix is good, but you need a ton of resources and a very powerful team synergy and game plan if you want to get Dark Phoenix. Otherwise, you're in a lot of trouble. And even if you get there, sometimes you still might be in trouble.
Happens in Phoenix. I like that choice here. Phoenix is gonna die before she gets to pop.
Now, obviously, Ye Shunguang doesn't have the same flaws as Phoenix. I just thought it would be fun to mention since they are kind of similar. Ye Shunguang is overpowered when you have the right team. When you don't have that, she is powered, not overpowered. Ye Shunguang wants to be enlightened at all times. Her Qingming bar stacks up to 6 times before you can become enlightened, unless you use her ultimate. To fill that bar, she needs to constantly attack, or for someone else to activate an Ether Veil, which gives her 3 stacks. This last part is the hard part. There are not a lot of agents who can create Ether Veils, and even fewer who want to be paired with Ye Shunguang. When 2.5 released, Zenless also released Zhao, a character who is a perfect partner to help support Ye Shunguang, because her gameplay boils down to, I create an Ether Veil, press EX, and don't use me again for 50 seconds. Rinse and repeat. That's a bit exaggerated, but that's kind of how Zhao plays out. You press EX and you don't touch the character. Zhao is by no means the best supporting agent in the game, and that's good. Because she isn't the best for most teams, you are perfectly content just sticking her to Ye Shunguang, which means Ye Shunguang only wants one more partner to help out her game plan. What's even better is that Zhao is a free agent that everybody has, so everybody's Ye Shunguang does really well. This is fantastic, is what I would say if Zhao is actually free, because Zhao was free. She is not free, not anymore. If you were not around for versions 2.5 or 2.6, they had her free for 2 versions. Kind of interesting. If you weren't around then, you can't have Zhao. It's impossible. You have to hope they somehow rerun her or throw her in the collectible exchange, where they send the agents they've given up on selling. If you look at Harumasa's lifespan, not a joke about him having hollow cancer, Harumasa has never had a rerun. He was released in 1.4 for free. If they follow the same trend with Zhao, you might not see her for 2 years. Now, I highly doubt they will put her in the collectible exchange because the agents in there are usually not very powerful, not without a lot of extra mindscapes or specific teams around them. And their W engines are usually not very powerful. Zhao's Mindscape 1 is actually pretty good. It's not as good as some other supports, but it's right next to it. And her W engine is really good for any defense agent. Its combat buffs are really generic, and that's really important for a lot of teams. And the aspect of Zhao just not being an option for new returning players is really important for you guys if you're wanting to get Ye Shunguang on her rerun. I don't think many players realize this because they are just used to playing Ye Shunguang in her good teams, not in her teams made with whatever agents you have. And the agent rerunning right next to her is Suna. Suna is a wonderful support. More attack, more damage because of how her kit works, and she activates an Ether Veil very easily, which is why Ye Shunguang really likes her. She likes her so much that Suna's additional, it doesn't even matter. Most players forget that Suna effectively doesn't have an additional in this team, and that's perfectly fine, because you're pairing her with Ye Shunguang, who is the best DPS, so it doesn't matter. However, that being said, as good as Suna is, the devs can easily make a better support that doesn't work with Ye Shunguang. For example, just to keep it simple, let's say a character named Leita. Leita is a brand new support who does the exact same thing as Suna, copy paste it over, except Leita gives slightly more attack and more stun damage, but doesn't have any Ether Veil. Unfortunately, even though that agent is technically better, they aren't better for Ye Shunguang because she wants to be enlightened very quickly, and she wants to be enlightened Suna rather than Leita. What? Who wrote this? I did. That's not even a good joke. Why do we keep... I'm not keeping that in. We're going to cut that out. Basically, Triple Z can very easily never release another Ether Veil agent, and Ye Shunguang will be in trouble. And even if you have resources to get both Ye Shunguang and Suna, you are still missing one partner for her. Lucia, Yidhari, Arya, Nan Gongyu, Cecilia, all have ether veils, and Ye Shunguang doesn't really want any of them. So you're stuck waiting for the devs to release another one that synergizes with her. Of course, if they rerun Dial-In, that might change things. It's funny that, again, Ye Shunguang doesn't care about stun, but Dial-In is the next best option. You're ignoring everything about Dial-In and just saying, another ult, please. Now, let's follow some reasoning as we look to the past. In version 1.6, the devs decided to start making agents that have an aftershock tag. These tags were designed to signify that an agent will appear on field to do a move even if they weren't the active agent. However, that doesn't really matter. Soldier Zero Ambi doesn't have a single aftershock like that. The game just labels almost all of her attacks as aftershocks for the purpose of niche buffs. And of course, this tag was used for niche buffs in the end game to make those agents feel stronger than they actually were. Orphe is the last aftershock DPS they created back in 2.2, and Lucia is the last agent with an aftershock back in 2.3. Mindscape 6 Lucia is a okay, fine. Lucia Mindscape 6 is the last aftershock DPS back in 2.3. Now we can look back at this trend and see that not all those agents with aftershocks care about aftershock teams, because the devs wanted to solve the problem of players not really seeing all three of their agents when they play. And Aftershocks was their attempt to emphasize that synchronized team combo power fantasy. And from that perspective, I think it works really well. But again, that has stopped. Lucia was the last one, and that was almost 8 months ago. And her Aftershock was clearly not designed for Aftershock teams. Now, let's look at a similar trend. In version 2.3, Lucia releases with the first Ether Veil. Ether Veil is a tag that applies some trivial buff that barely does anything, unless it interacts with a stage buff, or a drive disc, or an agent who actually benefits from them. And would you look at that? Numerous stage buffs for Ether Veils? You shouldn't have, game. That's too kind. Now, I actually like that they made agents who become more powerful with more Ether Veils. I think that's a fun team to build around. Right now, we have 2. Arya gets more glow sticks from each Ether Veil, and as we mentioned, Ye Shunguang. Yidhari has an Ether Veil, but it's not to make her more powerful, it's just to use her ult in the first place. And Cecilia is the most recent Ether Veil agent. However, similar to Lucia and Aftershocks, her Ether Veil doesn't matter unless you want to use Whitewater Ballad. Now, this did matter in her first beta when she used to buff electric and physical agents, but they immediately removed the physical buffs, so her Ether Veil doesn't matter for Ether Veil teams, just like how Lucia's Aftershock doesn't matter for Aftershock teams. Maybe they decided they didn't want to give Ye Shunguang another character to build a team around. I think a more convincing reason is that they were worried Dial-In would just become too good in this kind of team. Anyway, this is the point I'm trying to make. Despite how overpowered Dark Phoenix is, the devs can simply make her feel weaker. They can release stronger supports that don't have Ether Veils, and that will make Ye Shunguang feel clunkier to use in those teams. They can completely re-overhaul Shiyu defense again to make her lose out on that niche. They will probably not do that. They may or may not do that, we'll see. They are probably not going to make a physical weak Season 3 boss for a while, and if they do, I guarantee you, it will be a boss with an insanely high stun damage multiplier, which Ye Shunguang cannot benefit from unless you get her Mindscape 4, I think. It's 2 or 4. No, it's 4. Unironically, getting Mindscape 4 kind of solves that issue of her not doing anything with stun. The Veil vulnerability bonus goes up to 200%, which basically makes stun kind of important. So if you want to spend another $600, I guess that's an option. I think that's kind of a waste of money, but what do I know? And finally, I'm not trying to doom post. I'm just trying to point out trends and recognize that, hey, if they're willing to do a trend once, they're probably willing to do it again. And I say that because ever since Miyabi released, you can follow the trend of Season 2 bosses and endgame design. That's a topic for its own video, but very quickly, Miyabi is not as good as when she released. Since her release, enemies have gotten tougher and tougher and tougher, and are no longer designed to make her look exceptional. Miyabi's scores have dropped and times have decreased unless you start pulling for her best brand new team. Now, before I get too far, Miyabi is really good. She's incredible. At the same time, Miyabi was getting kills in Deadly Assault constantly from the best players in Season 1 using basically a free team. Miyabi can't do that anymore. The game doesn't want her to. The game tells you, please buy these other agents instead. Now, Miyabi is really good with Nangong and Yuzuha. You know who else is good with Nangong and Yuzuha? Every anomaly agent. Miyabi needs those two and maybe some more investment to perform like she used to, and I don't see any reason why Ye Shunguang would get special treatment in this regard. It is silly to believe the devs will do nothing in their power to make her feel weaker. They want players to move on to spending resources on other agents, or make them feel compelled to invest even more into that team. Like I mentioned, Ye Shunguang's Mindscape 4 might actually become important. I have no clue. And again, I'm not trying to frame this as a bad thing. Before, I know people get weird about this. I am not saying we should go back to like version 1.4 HP values. That's dumb. I just want to warn you guys that many players are probably going to overhype Ye Shunguang, and unless they release a brand new support for her, or you spend a lot of extra resources, or they make insanely shielded endgame buffs, then Ye Shunguang will probably underperform relative to her release and relative to how other players hype her up. I just don't want you to invest into what people are going to call, oh, the most powerful, the overpowered character, Ye Shunguang, and then you pull for the character and you're just wondering, wait a second, why am I not getting the results that these players told me I would be getting? I don't want you to fall for that. Now, underperforming is not a problem, unless you are only focused on the endgame. Endgame is a Sisyphus trap. I enjoy parts of it with the teams that I have, and I also understand how my feelings would change if I spent thousands of dollars in it. I don't do that. You don't see me playing Ye Shunguang with Suna or Zhao or Dailin, because I don't think those teams are fun to watch outside of exceptional skilled runs. I think those are great. You know what I do think is fun? Ye Shunguang with Lucia and Starlight Billy. Lucia gives an Ether Veil at the start of fights and sheer force. It's a buff for both DPS agents. Because of how Lucia works, she refreshes her Ether Veil. She doesn't activate it again, so that's why she's not good with Ye Shunguang. Regardless, Starlight Billy and Ye Shunguang are kind of cute together because their English VAs are married, and I think that's awesome. To wrap this up, Zenless Zone Zero is a game. Have your own fun playing the game. But if your form of fun is having the strongest team possible, then hear this warning. Hear me now, listen to me later. That kind of fun is an ever-changing goal, because the best teams are constantly changing, and that can become pretty expensive. It requires a lot of time and money. If you don't care about that, that's awesome. Ye Shunguang will always be in Hollow Zero until they completely remove it. So if you want to try out the character, I recommend you do that first before you pull for her, because you may find out after playing her, man, I just don't feel excited about this. Or maybe you're just not excited about the character because you haven't gone through her story yet, and maybe after doing so, you'll like her. Regardless, make your decision with confidence and with no regrets. Yeah, that's all I got. Subscribe if you feel like it. You don't have to, but it's nice. Recommend this video. If you think it's good, recommend it to someone. If you like what you see and you want to see more of it and get your name out there, you can always become a sponsor of the channel. I'm very grateful for the sponsors that I have. But please don't give what you don't have. Shoutouts to my super sponsors. I Love My PC, Jam Jalopy, Superbro64, and Tactile-like. Thank y'all so much. My name's Yojimbo Blade, and I hope y'all have a blessed day. See you soon. Moss, I want you to guess, what is my favorite archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX? It was, they were dark monsters, they destroyed themselves, they were like half guy, half girl, they were like ambiguously evil, but like ultimately good somehow.
Was it you, Belle?
Yes.